Today, we're diving into the really chilling story of Paul Dennis Reid. He was a guy whose dream of becoming a country music star completely fell apart, and that failure spiraled into a horrifying killing spree that absolutely terrorized Nashville back in 1997. This is the story of the fast food killer. So we're going to start in a strange place with the author of our source material. They point out this really unsettling coincidence. They happen to be in Nashville right around the dark anniversary of these crimes, purely by chance. It sets this mysterious tone for the whole story, you know? It kind of hints that some things line up for reasons we just can't explain. And this is the question that was just hanging in the air as the author drove through the city. It's a question that, honestly, we should probably all ask ourselves. I mean, how many times do you drive down a street and have absolutely no idea what kind of history is buried just under the surface? And here it is. This is the road. Lebanon Pike, a simple drive to a tourist spot, suddenly turned into a journey through an active crime scene. This exact stretch of pavement was the backdrop for some of Reid's most brutal crimes. So who was this guy who made an ordinary road so infamous? Let's get into his backstory. Because Reid wasn't just some criminal. He was a man totally consumed by this fantasy, and when it all came crashing down, it unleashed an absolute monster. Well, Reid's path to Nashville was already paved with violence. He got a 20-year sentence for robbery in '83, but he was paroled after only 7 years. He shows up in Nashville around 1996, probably thinking he's getting a fresh start. But by February 15th, 1997, that dream was toast. He got fired from a simple dishwashing job. And this is where you get a sense of just how delusional this guy was. After a truck wreck, he got a workman's comp settlement. But instead of using it for, recovery, he spent it on plastic surgery. He was absolutely convinced that changing his face was his ticket to country music stardom. It's just a bizarre look into a mind that was desperate for fame and completely out of touch with reality. Getting fired was the final straw. He'd thrown a plate at a coworker at Shoney's and they let him go. For a guy whose entire identity was wrapped up in this fragile, grandiose dream, this public failure was a massive blow to his ego. It was the final push that sent him spiraling right back into extreme violence. And this brings us to what he's known for, the fast food killings. They weren't just crimes. They were an attack on the very idea of safety in our everyday lives. He turned places we all know, places of comfort and routine, into scenes of unbelievable horror. The very next day, literally one day after being fired, Reid walked into this Captain D's. And get this, he pretended he was there looking for a job, a chilling echo of the job he had just lost. Inside, he forced 2 employees, Sarah Jackson and Steve Hampton, into the restaurant's cooler. And there, in the cold and the dark, he murdered them. This was the beginning of his 3-month reign of terror. A month goes by, and just down the road, on that same Lebanon Pike, he strikes again. This time, the target was a McDonald's, another one of those familiar beacons of American life. During this robbery, Reid murdered 3 more employees: Andrea Brown, Ronald Santiago, and Robert Sewell. But he wasn't done. He stabbed a 4th employee, Jose Antonio Ramirez Gonzalez, 17 times and just left him for dead. But miraculously, he survived. He somehow managed to crawl to a phone, call for help, and he would later become the key witness who brought Paul Dennis Reid to justice. The final attack happened another month later, in April, at a Baskin-Robbins. But this time, the crime started at the restaurant and ended somewhere much more isolated. He kidnapped 2 young employees, Angela Holmes and Michelle Mace, right from their workplace. He drove them to a nearby state park, and that's where he killed them. All told, 7 innocent people were murdered in just over 2 months. Reid's spree was terrifyingly efficient, but it was his own rage and his own arrogance that would end up being his downfall. So let's take a look at how this all finally came to an end. The end didn't come from some huge manhunt. It came from a personal vendetta. Reid actually went to the home of Mitch Roberts, the manager who had fired him from Shoney's, armed and ready for a fight. Roberts recognized him, immediately called the police with a tip, and just like that, the fast food killer was arrested. So Reid was sentenced to death. And while at first he fought it, he eventually accepted his fate and even wanted the execution to be carried out. But this is where the justice system gets really complex. His own lawyers fought against his wishes for years, arguing he was mentally unfit. In the end, the state never executed him. He died of natural causes in 2013.
Okay, let's step back from the hard facts of the case for a minute and go back to that sense of unease we started with. Because the author of our source material, they believe there's more to these stories than just analyzing a crime scene. This feeling of being led around, of things just kind of jumping out at you, it's a theme that keeps coming up. The author straight up rejects the idea of coincidence. They suggest there's some deeper connection there for people who are trying to tell these forgotten stories. And that idea goes even deeper here. The author describes this energy at these locations, a feeling that the place itself wants its story to be told, not just to remember a tragedy, but to honor the victims and to serve as a kind of warning. When you really boil it down, the takeaway from the horrific case of Paul Dennis Reid is this chillingly simple truth. He wasn't some phantom hiding in the shadows. He was a dishwasher. The murders didn't happen in some dark alley. They happened at a Captain D's, a McDonald's. Evil can be completely mundane. It can be right next to you. And that leaves us with this final haunting question. As you drive down your own version of Lebanon Pike, think about the unseen history of the places you pass every single day. Do buildings and roads actually hold on to the energy of what happened there? Do places remember?